All right, joining me now here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is George Wilson. George is the Executive Vice President of Dynamic Energy. George, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Matthew. I look forward to correcting your ill-conceived progressive views.
Okay, so George, recently the Union of Concerned Scientists released a new report detailing literally decades of deception by the fossil fuel industry when it comes to climate change.
Look, for starters, why are we even discussing this, Matthew? This report is from a group called the Union of Concerned Scientists. A union, Matthew. Union. What good has a union ever done for anyone? Other than the 40-hour work week, weekends, safe labor conditions, raising wages, blah, 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 blah. Look, I, for one, don't want any union thug scientist telling me that climate change is real and that it's an imminent threat. And who really cares about overwhelming scientific consensus anyway? Look, we here in the fossil fuel industry, we have our own scientists. Thank you very much.
Wait, did you just put air quotes around the word scientist?
Did I what?
When you were talking about scientist, you put air quotes around the word scientist.
Look, tomato, tomato, potato, potato, scientist, scientist. What's the difference? Let's call the whole thing off and keep extracting fossil fuels.
Going back, you also said you had your own scientists.
So what? Everyone should have their own scientist. It's fun. Matthew, it's a status symbol, like a housekeeper, or a personal decorator, or a cocaine dealer. I'll bet you that Kim Kardashian will have her own personal scientist any day now, and it will be all the rage, all over TMZ. But I get your tone there, Matthew. I suppose that you're complaining about how the fossil fuel industry secretly gave over $1.2 million to scientist Willie Soon, and that he wrote anti-climate change papers that he literally called deliverables in invoices to oil companies, and that he never disclosed his conflict of interest, and that members of Congress like James Inhofe continue to this day to use his science? Is that what you're whining about, you big whiner?
Well, there's that, and there's also a just-released memo that showed that Exxon was aware of the dangers of carbon as early as 1981.
Matthew, sure, we could have come clean with our knowledge of the dangers of climate change back then, but that would have totally ruined the 80s. Is that what you want? You want us to ruin the 1980s? I mean, the 80s! They were so much fun! We had Magnum PI, Matlock, Miami Vice, Rubik's Cubes, bad hair, bad clothes, trickle-down economics, cocaine. Oh, the cocaine, Matthew. I did so much cocaine in the 80s, it would have killed a horse. And not a small horse, Matthew. I'm talking a big horse, like a Clydesdale horse. And if you think you and your environmentalist hippie pals are going to stop me from doing cocaine, Matthew, you have another thing coming.
No, you can do as much cocaine as you want.
You're damn right I can! All right, look, Matthew, what you don't see here is that the fossil fuel industry was lying for your own good and for the benefit of you and all of the poors around the world.
How's that exactly?
All of you little, unimportant people, you're like a kid on Christmas morning, so happy and full of joy, not knowing about climate change. Would you rather we tell you that Santa Claus doesn't exist, Matthew? You'd rather just tell you the truth? Okay, well then, Santa Claus doesn't exist, the Easter Bunny doesn't exist, and fossil fuel extraction is killing the planet. Is that what you want to hear, Matthew? What's next? What's next? You want us to say that racism didn't end in America because we elected a black president? Nobody wants to hear that, Matthew.
This report also documents the secret funding of astroturf groups to create doubt about climate change.
Look, I know this report compiles internal memos and documents showing that fossil fuel companies for decades and decades knew that their products were harmful, but still spent millions and millions and millions to actively deceive the public. But what are you going to do about it? What, are you going to prosecute the fossil fuel companies under the RICO Act like Big Tobacco? Definitely don't do that, though. Do not do that. What's next? Are you going to point out that some of our scientist actually worked for Big Tobacco too? Look, Matthew, the point I am trying to make here is just because the fossil fuel industry colluded to defraud the public about the dire consequences and extreme health costs of carbon pollution doesn't mean that we should face any consequences whatsoever.
All right, we're going to go. George Wilson, Executive Vice President of Dynamic Energy. We'll be right back.
Does anybody have any blow?